The 5 hidden rules of cognitive dissonance that control your decisions. You know that moment you catch yourself defending a decision you don't even like. You know it's not great, but you feel weirdly compelled to justify it. That pull isn't logic, it's cognitive dissonance, a discomfort alarm that demands instant relief. When it fires, your mind will do almost anything to feel congruent again, even if it means polishing a bad choice into a heroic story. Here's the twist most people miss. The engine under your decisions isn't a debate club, it's a thermostat. When the error signal spikes, my actions don't match my beliefs. Your mind cranks up the heat with justifications, reframes, and selective memory until the room feels comfortable again. That relief is fast. The accuracy cost is slow and invisible. This clicked for me when I realized how consistent the patterns are. Social psychologists have mapped them for decades. We inflate the value of anything we've suffered for, effort justification. Aronson and Mills, 1959. We re-rate our choices after picking to reduce doubt. Post-Decisional Revaluation. Brehm, 1956. And we rewrite beliefs more under tiny incentives than big ones. Insufficient Justification. Festinger and Carl Smith, 1959. You've seen these effects with hazing that proves worth, buyer's remorse that flips into loyalty, and the famous low-pay lie that becomes, maybe it was true. That's classic dissonance work, not mysterious willpower failures. So here's the promise. I'll decode 5 hidden rules that explain when the thermostat flips on and exactly how it reshapes your story. You'll get field tests you can use today, plus a simple habit I call the Dissonance Pause that shuts down the instant justification reflex long enough for accuracy to catch up. No theory detours, you'll walk away with scripts, audits, and corrections that fit real life. The stakes are bigger than embarrassment. Dissonance protects your self-image in the moment, but it quietly taxes your money, relationships, and goals. It keeps you paying into sunk cost careers because quitting feels like betrayal. It keeps you defending overpriced gadgets, polarizing your politics, and rationalizing, just this once at work. It can even push you to devalue people right before you harm them, so your moral self can sleep at night. Before we dive, let me give you one counterintuitive lever you'll need later. The smallest external rewards often create the biggest internal shifts. When there's not enough outside reason to explain what you did, your mind changes the inside story instead. That's why a tiny favor can reshape identity more than a big payout. We'll come back to that because it's the move that marketers, bosses, and even your future self use on you. But first, the mental thermostat. Think of it like this. Your beliefs, choices, and public identity are the temperature settings. When you act in ways that don't match those settings, an error signal hits. Tension, urgency, and a powerful urge to explain. Then the system starts turning the knobs. It can inflate the value of what you chose, so it deserved your sacrifice, downgrade what you didn't choose, so you dodged a bullet, or tweak the belief itself, so you always felt this way. The room feels normal again. The facts might not. Now, why our usual approach fails? We try to out-argue ourselves after the justification has already locked in. By that point, the brain has a sunk narrative to defend. Or we go all in on be more rational, which ignores the speed of the discomfort loop. Dissonance runs on milliseconds and feelings. Logic is the review panel that meets next Tuesday. Here's the better method. Learn the rules that trigger the loop, spot the earliest cues, and put tiny friction in front of your justifications. When you know the 5 rules, you can predict which knob your mind will reach for and intercept it with a pre-written move. You're not wrestling the feeling, you're rerouting the behavior it would have hijacked. If you remember nothing else from this section, relief is the product your mind sells. Accuracy is the price you pay. The goal isn't to feel bad longer. It's to get just enough pause to let better information in before the story hardens. Let me show you exactly what we'll cover. Rule 1 is effort justification. The more pain, time, or status you've paid, the more your mind inflates the thing's value to make the cost feel smart. Aronson and Mills, 1959. That's why brutal internships, hazing, and prestige projects become transformative precisely when they're wasteful. Rule 2 is post-decisional revaluation. Once you choose, you boost your pick and trash the alternative to quiet. What if I'm wrong? Brehm, 1956. Spreading of alternatives. That's buyer's remorse flipping into brand zeal. Rule 3 is insufficient justification. When the external reason for your behavior is small, you change your internal beliefs to match the action demonstrated. In Festinger and Carl Smither's 1959 $1 versus $20 experiment. That's the classic low-pay-lie effect. Tiny rewards push big belief edits. Rule 4 is dehumanization. Before we harm, we quietly lower the target's value so our moral self doesn't revolt. Aligned with Bandura's moral disengagement mechanisms, including euphemistic labeling and dehumanization. That's how paying dues, and they deserve it, language lets teams overwork or exclude someone and still feel principled. Rule 5 is public commitment. Once you go public and irreversible, you'll defend that stance against new evidence, because consistency feels like virtue and reputation is on the line. Cialdini's commitment and consistency principle, 1984/2009. That's the Slack doubling down, the social post you can't walk back, and the managerial edict you reinforce even after the data changes. The reason these 5 matter together is simple. They interact. You announce a decision publicly, you suffer for it. Then you re-rate the options, dehumanize critics, and backfill beliefs to match tiny favors and incentives. That's a closed loop. Break any link, and the whole thing gets easier to update. And here's an open loop for you. The smallest rewards trigger the largest internal shifts. Counterintuitive, but powerful when you're trying to change your own mind on purpose. Coming up, we'll start with effort justification, how pain makes prisoners love their chains, and how to spot it before it eats your time and money. Rule 1, effort justification. Pain makes prisoners love their chains. Here's the rule in one line. The more pain, time, or status you've paid, the more your brain inflates the value of the thing to make the cost feel smart. If the experience was brutal, the story becomes worth it. That's not a personality quirk, it's dissonance cleanup. Your actions say this mattered, so your beliefs get upgraded to match. Why this matters? If you get this wrong, you'll keep pouring years and money into things that stopped paying off ages ago. Hazing becomes bonding, elite clubs become gateways, brutal internships transform into grit accelerators, and toxic relationships get retold as proof we're meant to be. The consequence is predictable. You protect yesterday's pain by sacrificing tomorrow's options. The thing most people miss is the cost-value mismatch. Dissonance spikes when effort is high and payoff is uncertain because the narrative, "I made a bad bet," threatens your identity. So the mind installs a more comfortable one. Only the best things demand this much. That reframing relieves the tension instantly. And once you've framed it that way publicly, you'll defend it even harder. Mechanically, it's simple. You've got 2 clashing cognitions. I suffered, and this wasn't worth it. To resolve the clash without calling yourself foolish, you upgrade the target. It's rare, elite character building. Classic demonstrations show higher liking after severe initiation. Aronson and Mills, 1959. The moment you do, sunk cost hardens into sunk identity. Now quitting doesn't just waste the past. It violates who you say you are. Let me show you exactly how this sneaks in. I once kept a failing side project alive for 18 months because I had already sunk weekends, a logo, and way too much pride into it. Every red metric got reinterpreted as a lesson. It's grit school. I tweaked features, redesigned the landing page, bought another course, and told myself the market just wasn't ready. Translation: I paid pain. I needed it to mean something. The tuition was real. The degree never arrived. Now here's where most people mess up. They try to be objective by listing all the effort invested, as if that helps. It makes it worse. When you stack painful receipts, the urge to inflate value to match them gets stronger. You need a cleaner move. Decouple past cost from future choice. The field test I use is blunt. If I could start today for free, knowing what I know now, would I still choose this? Not, can it be saved? Not, how much have I put in? Just, would I pick it from scratch? If the answer is no, the story you've been telling is running the show. Dissonance is doing the driving. Once you have that signal, you need safeguards. Pre-commit kill criteria before kickoff. That means writing down the exact conditions under which you'll stop. Revenue by date, response rates, behavior change, whatever actually matters. Tie each criterion to an independent value metric, not feelings. If the metric isn't met, the default is exit, not give it one more quarter. This clicked for a student last month. She was clinging to a prestige certification track that required 20 hours a week, cost a small fortune, and had no measurable impact on her client pipeline. She kept calling it table stakes. We set a kill criterion. 3 signed clients directly attributable to the credential within 90 days. At day 92, she paused it, redirected those hours to outreach, and closed 2 contracts using a portfolio review instead. Her words: "I was paying rent on a story. Past cost became tuition. Future returns decided." Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Set independent value metrics before you bleed. For jobs, skills learned and market options opened. For relationships, observable behavior, not history. For memberships or clubs, direct access, not prestige. Then schedule a review where only those metrics get a vote. No badge polishing allowed. Common traps to watch for: hazing and paying dues. If the primary benefit you talk about is how hard it was, you're probably inflating the value to match pain. Replace hard with useful. What changed in your ability? Brutal internships. If the top deliverable is proximity to a name, you've got a status story, not a skills outcome. Audit. List 3 skills with clear before / after proof. If you can't, it's a grind tax, not growth. Toxic relationships. We've been through so much. Is effort as virtue? Swap it for: we repair quickly and well. If repairs are rare and resentment is routine, longevity is anchoring you. Sunk cost careers. "I've already spent 7 years," is not an argument for 8. Ask the start today for free question, and watch what your stomach does. Okay, so the tricky part is how to make quitting feel like integrity, not failure. Language helps. Try: "Past cost is tuition. The degree is the capability I keep. The decision is based on future returns." Say it out loud. Write it at the top of your review doc. Your identity will catch the new frame. Let me give you one more micro win. Set an exit without shame checkpoint on your calendar before you start the next project. Literally a meeting titled "Exit Without Shame," with the metrics attached. If you exit, celebrate with a small reward and a 1-page retro. 3 lessons kept. 1 mistake you won't repeat. 1 test you'll run next time. That ritual turns quitting from self-threat into competence. If you remember nothing else from this rule, pain paid is not value created. Your brain wants to balance that equation by inflating the prize. Don't let it. Decide on future-only returns. Pre-commit kill criteria. And run the start today for free test whenever your chest gets tight and your mouth starts explaining. Once you choose, your mind will start rewriting the scoreboard. So we need to get ahead of the next move. Rule 2, Post-Decisional Revaluation, the brain's buyer's remorse patch. Once you choose, your brain starts editing. Not because you're vain, but because the decision creates an uncomfortable what if. What if I'm wrong? To silence that error signal fast, you boost your pick and quietly downgrade the one you didn't choose. That spreading apart of options is the buyer's remorse patch. It smooths doubt by widening the gap after the fact. Why this matters? If you don't catch it, you'll defend mediocre choices long after the evidence turns. You'll keep a subscription because it's actually saving me money, stick with a gadget because the camera is underrated, or harden a political stance because the other side's unhinged. The cost isn't just money, it's missed course corrections. You lose agility. Here's the thing most people miss. The effect is strongest when the options were close. If 2 jobs were both good, or 2 partners both wonderful in different ways, the dissonance from choosing one spikes because you sacrificed real pros. So the mind widens the gap. Your choice grows halo wings, the other sprouts horns. It's not analysis, it's pain relief. Mechanically, there are 2 clashing cognitions. I picked X, and Y had things I liked. To reduce the clash, you amplify the upsides of X and rediscover fatal flaws in Y you somehow didn't notice yesterday. What classic choice studies call the spreading of alternatives. Brehm, 1956, Egan, Santos, and Bloom, 2007 in Children/Monkeys. The narrative stabilizes. Of course X was better. The discomfort drops. And if you announced your pick publicly, consistency pressure makes the patch even stickier. Quick microstory. A client had 2 similar job offers. Same pay band, different growth paths. She chose product at Company A for mentorship. Within a week, she was remembering that Company B had chaotic leadership, bad culture, and weak tech, claims that didn't show up in her notes. We compared pre-choice notes to post-choice story, and, surprise, none of her new flaws for B existed before she committed. That gap widening was the patch at work. Now, here's where most people mess up. They audit their decision using only post-choice data. Reviews they sought after buying, conversations after committing, selective Googling that confirms the pick. That's motivated research. It feels rigorous, it's not. You're feeding the patch with hand-picked calories. The cleaner approach is a two-part tool: a pre-choice prediction list and a post-choice comparison. Before choosing, write down 3 measurable reasons you'd pick X over Y, and 3 risks you accept by doing so. Then, 72 hours after the decision, run a cooling audit. Compare today's story to those written reasons. Any new fatal flaw or hidden upside that wasn't on your pre-choice list is likely dissonance cleanup, not discovery. Let me show you how to apply it. Say you're choosing between 2 laptops. Pre-choice, list the exact criteria that matter: battery life, weight, screen, price, and score both. Write 1 risk you accept about your pick, heavier than ideal. After buying, give it 3 days and re-rate on the same criteria. If you catch yourself saying, the other model's keyboard was terrible anyway, and you never cared about keyboards before, that's the patch talking. Flag it. Common patterns to watch: defending overpriced gadgets. Post-purchase, you start praising niche features you never valued. If your priorities changed overnight, that's a clue. Politicization hardening. After voting, you suddenly can't name a single decent point from the other side. That's identity defending the choice. Post-breakup narratives. You choose to leave, and within days your ex acquires every negative trait in the dictionary. Be careful, that oversimplification blocks learning. Field tests that work today. The 72-hour cooling audit. Don't argue with yourself in the heat. Wait 3 days, then compare pre-choice predictions to your current story. Highlight differences. Reopen if X/Y/Z. Before deciding, set concrete triggers that would justify revisiting the choice. Price drops by 20%, a feature launches, a job role changes. If a trigger hits, you revisit on principle. Devil's advocate invite. Ask a trusted friend to steelman the option you didn't pick using your pre-choice criteria. Your job is to listen without rebuttal for 5 minutes. Now, the tricky part is separating legitimate learning from patchwork. Sometimes you really do uncover new information after a choice. So add 1 rule. Only update your evaluation based on evidence you can timestamp and source. I found a teardown showing thermal throttling beats. I heard it's bad. If you can't source it, it's comfort, not data. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Write your regret budget in advance. Literally, I'm willing to be wrong by $200 or 2 weeks to gain momentum now. When small regret shows up, you won't let the patch spend years defending pennies. You pay the budget, learn, and move. 1 more micro story. 2 similar SaaS plans. A founder picked the pricier one for white glove support. Support was fine, but their usage didn't need it. He felt stuck, praising irrelevant features. We pulled his pre-choice list. Speed to value and API stability were the real priorities. The cheaper plan met both. He switched, saved 40%, and emailed. I was justifying the concierge because it was the only painful part of the bill. If you remember nothing else from this rule, after you choose, your brain widens the gap to make you feel certain. Pre-commit your criteria, cool off for 72 hours, and only update based on time-stamped evidence. Confidence should come from alignment, not anesthesia. Rule 3. Insufficient justification. Tiny rewards, massive mind shifts. This next rule feels upside down the first time you see it. When the external reason for what you did is small, your brain often changes your beliefs to match the action. When the external reason is big, you don't need to. So tiny rewards can trigger big internal edits. Big rewards let you keep your original view untouched. That's the insufficient justification effect. Why this matters? This is how you talk yourself into things you don't believe. Quietly, credibly, and fast. You do a small favor you don't like, just to help. Mumble a white lie with no good reason. Or praise a mediocre idea once to keep the peace. Because the outside reason is flimsy, your mind manufactures an inside reason to close the gap. Maybe it wasn't that bad. I actually agree. This is part of who I am. Do that a few times, and your identity shifts while you're not looking. The thing most people miss is the threshold. Dissonance spikes when 2 cognitions clash. I did X, and I don't endorse X. And you can't point to a strong external excuse. A large payment, a strict rule, a clear threat? Those are excuses. They let you say, I did it for the money, or I had to. But a token gift card, a vague could you, from a colleague, or a mild social nudge. Now you need your beliefs to carry the weight. The mind's fix is to update the belief so the act feels aligned. Mechanically, it's simple. Behavior happens first. You told a friend their draft was great when you didn't think so. If there's no strong reason to explain the mismatch, No looming deadline, no explicit request to soften feedback. The discomfort shows up. To resolve it without calling yourself dishonest, you revise your appraisal. Maybe it is pretty good, and you start noticing the parts that support that story. This mirrors the insufficient justification pattern from Festinger and Carl Smith, 1959, where minimal external incentive prompted attitude change. Next round, you believe your own edit a bit more. The loop tightens. Let me give you the micro-story version. I once nodded along in a meeting to a feature pivot I thought was weak. No one pressured me, and there wasn't a political reason to agree. Afterward, I caught myself telling a teammate, "There's actually something clever here." 30 minutes later, I was defending the pivot against perfectly fair concerns. I had created an internal reason to justify a small, unjustified yes. The second yes came easier because my identity was already shifting towards supportive team player who sees the upside. Now here's where most people mess up. We think the fix is to refuse all small asks so we don't drift. That's not realistic, and it kills cooperation. The cleaner move is to label your behavior in real time, so it doesn't back-edit your beliefs. Say out loud, "I'm testing this, not endorsing it," or "I'm helping you explore, not approving the idea." That one sentence gives your mind a ready-made external justification. It keeps your identity intact. Field tests that work today. Ask, what story am I crafting to make this feel right? If the only reason you can name is "it's easier," or "I don't want friction," flag it. That's insufficient justification territory. Demand explicit reasons, either from yourself or others. What outcome are we buying with this compromise? If the answer is mushy, don't let your beliefs pay the bill. Use experiment language. I'll try this for 1 week as a test. Put a time box and a success metric on it. Experiments don't rewrite identities, endorsements do. Common traps to watch, small favors you dislike. You agree to be on a committee you don't care about because it's only an hour. 3 meetings later, you catch yourself saying, "It's actually strategic." Is it? Or did your brain make it strategic, so your time investment feels right? Soft praise. You say "nice work" to spare feelings when the work isn't there. Next review cycle, your standard has drifted, and you're the person who supports growth mindset, which becomes code for avoiding hard feedback. Just helping out. You do tasks that conflict with your role or values with no strong reason. To square it, you tell yourself your role is evolving. Maybe it should. Or maybe you're sandpapering dissonance. Okay, so the tricky part is protecting relationships without rewriting your beliefs. Scripts help. I'm positive on your effort. I'm neutral on the idea. Let's test the riskiest assumption before we cheerlead. I'm giving a courtesy yes for today, not a precedent. My default stays no without a clear case. I'll support the process, not the conclusion. If the data goes the other way, I switch. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Create a reasons receipt. Anytime you do something you'd normally resist. One sentence. I'm doing X because Y. If Y is thin, upgrade the reason or shrink the action. And set a mini debrief. If I find myself defending this next week, check the receipt. You'll catch the belief edit in motion. Another quick win. Pre-label your role in meetings. I'm here as a skeptic, or I'm wearing my tester hat. That tag becomes a public external justification. Later, when dissonance tries to smooth your stance into agreement, your earlier label blocks the identity shift. A fast field drill for today. Pick one place you've been saying small yes, Slack approvals, expense requests, social invites. For the next 24 hours, attach a specific why to each yes that would make sense to a stranger. If you can't, swap yes for "I'll test it for 48 hours, or "I support the exploration. I'm not endorsing the outcome." Watch how much harder it is to talk yourself into a full belief change when the reason is clear. If you remember nothing else from this rule, big incentives let you keep your beliefs. Tiny incentives pressure you to change them. Protect your identity with explicit reasons, experiment labels, time boxes, and reasons receipts. When the outside reason is thin, don't let your inside story carry the weight. Rule 4, Dehumanization. How we soften the mirror before we harm. This next rule is the one we least like to see in ourselves. When our actions risk hurting someone, or our group's choice does, we quietly dial down their humanity to keep our moral self-image intact. We don't set out to be cruel. We set out to feel congruent while doing something that would otherwise sting. That's dehumanization as a dissonance fix. Why this matters? If you miss this move, you'll justify harm you'd never accept from others. You'll scapegoat the easy target at work, join an online pile-on, or write off a neighbor's pain as their fault, all while feeling principled. You'll call it accountability, standards, or tradition. Meanwhile, your empathy shrinks and your accuracy tanks, because a flattened person is easier to misread. Bandura's moral disengagement framework explains this slide via mechanisms like euphemistic labeling, displacement of responsibility, and dehumanization. The thing most people miss is how subtle the language shift is. We swap specifics for labels. A junior designer becomes dead weight. A competitor becomes clowns. A political opponent becomes animals, NPCs, or traitors. Each downgrade makes the next harsh step feel less like harm and more like maintenance. The thermostat is working. Reduce empathy, reduce dissonance, proceed. Mechanically, you've got clashing cognitions. I'm a good person, and I'm about to cause someone pain. To resolve it without downgrading your self-image, you downgrade theirs. You tell yourself they're lazy, fragile, deserving of tough love, fundamentally different. Now the act reclassifies as fair. Your moral self isn't threatened, the target's standing is. Let me give you the micro-story. A team I worked with was drowning in deadlines. They started funneling the worst tasks to a new grad, because she needs to learn. Jokes followed. She'll thank us later. Dues paying. When I asked, would this feel justified if recorded and played back to her parents? The room went quiet. The jokes weren't culture. They were anesthesia. Once we named it, the task distribution shifted to a rotation, with mentorship attached. Now here's where most people mess up. They argue intent. We're not trying to hurt anyone. Dissonance doesn't care about intent. It cares about consistency. If your behavior conflicts with your values, you'll manufacture a story that fixes the feeling. Intent can even speed the slide. For their own good is a powerful license to push past boundaries. Field tests that work today. Swap labels for specifics. Replace lazy with missed 2 deadlines this month, and entitled with asked for clearer scope. Specifics force accuracy and slow the downgrade. The recording test. Would this feel justified if recorded and shown to someone I respect? If not, you're relying on obscurity to excuse harm. Flip roles. Imagine being the target with the same constraints, knowledge, and power. Does your rationale still feel fair? If it only works from the top, it's defense, not justice. Common patterns to watch. Workplace scapegoating. One person becomes the bucket for every problem story. Hint: if your fix is replace the person more than fix the system, check for dehumanization. Online pylons. Strangers become avatars. Sarcasm feels harmless because you can't see eyes. If your language is harsher online than off, you're numbing empathy to reduce dissonance. Political othering. Euphemisms sanitize harm. Collateral damage. Enhanced interrogation. Illegals. If the phrase smooths your stomach, it's probably designed to. Okay, so the tricky part is staying human forward without becoming conflict avoidant. You still need standards, consequences, and boundaries. The correction is to humanize before judgment and draw red lines around behavior, not people. Practical corrections. Humanize with one concrete detail. Before a hard call, say one specific, true human fact about the person. She's carrying 2 teams' tickets. He moved cities for this role. It's harder to swing a hammer when you can see the hand. Redline behaviors. Write the boundary in verbs, not identities. No public shaming, no withholding info. No overtime without consent. Enforce them consistently, including on high performers. No harm under ambiguity. When intent, facts, or power dynamics are unclear, default to the least harmful option. That could mean delay, a smaller test, or a private conversation first. Scripts that help. I'm going to talk in specifics, not labels. What exactly happened? What was the impact? What do we need next? We can hold a high bar without humiliating people. Let's design the fix, not the burn. I won't punish under smoke. If we can't name the behavior and evidence, we pause. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Write a mirror clause into your team or personal policy. We won't do anything we wouldn't be comfortable having done to us if we were equally informed and equally powered. That line collapses the distance dehumanization needs. One more quick win. When anger spikes, insert a 10-minute specific sprint. Open a doc and only allow observable facts and direct quotes. No motives, no character reads. When the sprint ends, decide the smallest next step that reduces harm and increases information. A final note on moral licensing. Doing something good doesn't buy you credits to do something harmful. We work so hard for customers isn't a pass to grind down a teammate. Watch for that swap, virtue points used to fund cruelty. If you see it, say, our values pay for our standards, not our shortcuts. If you remember nothing else from this rule, before we harm, we soften the mirror. We downgrade people, so our moral self can keep smiling. Fight that move with specifics, human details, flipped roles, and redline behaviors. Hold the line on standards, but keep the person fully human while you do it. Rule 5. Public commitment. The audience locks the cage. This rule stings because it uses your best qualities against you. Once you take a public, irreversible stance, you'll defend it long past its expiration date. Not because you love being wrong, but because consistency signals competence, reliability, and status. The audience doesn't even have to be large. One Slack channel is plenty. You feel watched, therefore you armor up. This mirrors Cialdini's commitment/consistency principle. Influence, 1984. Revised editions 2001-2009. Where public commitments increase persistence and resistance to change. Why this matters? Public commitment hardens every other rule. Announce a decision, then suffer for it, and you'll justify the effort. Choose a side in public, and you'll widen the gap post-choice. Say something out loud for a tiny reason, like momentum, and your identity shifts to match it. The cage is social gravity, reputation, team trust, and self-image wrapped together. The thing most people miss is that public includes future you. A written doc, a tweet, a team memo, even a calendar note with your name on it. Those create an audience. Once your words exist outside your head, you feel pressure to be consistent with them. That pressure can be healthy when it anchors good habits. It becomes costly when the environment changes and the words won't. Mechanically, there are clashing cognitions. I'm the kind of person who stands by my word, and new evidence suggests my word needs updating. To save face, you either suppress the new evidence or reinterpret it until it aligns with your original stance. The short-term reward is applause for consistency. The long-term cost is drift from reality. Let me give you the micro-story. I once made a confident call in Slack about a feature rollout timeline. Too confident. By the next day, our integration partner slipped. Instead of updating, I doubled down with defensive explanations because the team had seen my certainty. I wasn't protecting truth. I was protecting image. The fix came when I wrote a 2-sentence update policy and posted it in the same channel. The next time a forecast shifted, I could point at the policy and say, following our rule, I'm updating. The audience became a shield for accuracy, not a cage for ego. Now here's where most people mess up. They draft in public. Hot takes, real-time roadmaps, building in public, without guardrails. When you publish before you're ready, the crowd becomes your editor and your jailer. You'll feel compelled to defend half-baked ideas because they're tied to your name. Field tests that work today. Would I hold this view if I'd never posted it? Ask it before you respond to a thread or ship a memo. If the answer is no, or I'm not sure, draft privately first. Draft privately, publish deliberately. Write your stance in a private doc. Leave it overnight, then reread with a prove myself wrong pass. Only then post. Add a revision ritual. Every public statement gets a review date and a trigger list. If a trigger hits, new data, threshold crossed, you update in the same venue. Mechanics you can adopt. Working hypothesis language. Say, here's my current best guess and the evidence. Not, this is the only way. Hypotheses invite updates. Declarations demand defense. Public update policy. 1 to 2 lines you pin where you speak. I update publicly when new evidence changes my view. I'll state what changed and why. Praise mind changes. Build a norm where changing your mind is a strength signal. Thanks for the update beats, but you said, common traps to watch, social media hot takes. The dopamine of instant agreement glues you to positions you haven't stress tested. If you're tweeting to be seen as consistent, you will be, just not with reality. Managerial edicts. Publicly setting an inflexible plan when uncertainty is high. The team hears no backtracking, so they filter upward. You lose the very information that would save time and money. Performative goals. Announcing no sugar, ever, or ship. Daily, to look disciplined, then hiding misses. Better, I'm running a 30-day experiment. I'll post my weekly trend. Okay, so the tricky part is reducing reputational risk while staying open to updates. You can't wait for perfect information, and you still need commitment. The correction isn't to be vague. It's to build exits into your commitments. Practical corrections. Leave exit ramps. We'll proceed unless X, Y, or Z occurs. If it does, we'll reassess. Exit ramps turn updates into following the plan, not breaking it. Version your statements. V1 stance. V2 stance after user interviews. Versions acknowledge learning without implying failure. Separate promise from prediction. Promise the process, transparent criteria, review dates, rather than promising a specific outcome under uncertainty. Scripts that help. Working hypothesis. Based on A, B, C, I favor option 1. I'll revisit in 2 weeks or sooner if metric M dips below 3%. I've updated based on new info. I was wrong on X. Here's why I'm keeping, and here's what changes. Drafting privately to think clearly. I'll share a version plan tomorrow with criteria for updates. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Draft your public reversal template before you ever need it. 2 sentences, fill in the blank. I said stance on date because evidence. Since then, new evidence changed my view. I now think, updated stance, and will, next action. When you need it, you won't negotiate with your ego, just paste and ship. One more quick win. Create a cooldown lane for posts. Anything that could lock your identity gets a 30-minute timer. In that half hour, write the Steelman of the opposing view in 3 bullets. If you can't, you're not ready to go public. If you remember nothing else from this rule, the moment you speak in public, consistency pressure kicks in. Don't fight it, channel it. Use working hypotheses, revision rituals, exit ramps, and a public update policy, so the audience keeps you honest instead of locking the cage. Field Lab 1. Money, work, and the sunk cost spiral. Let's take the rules into your wallet and calendar, because this is where dissonance burns cash. Money and work are perfect storm zones for Rule 1 and Rule 2. You pay a lot up front, you choose loudly, and then you defend the choice as if refunds damage your character. First, spotting the pattern at work. Salary anchoring. You take a high-paying role that blocks skill growth. Tell yourself, this comp proves I'm valued. And ignore that your future options are shrinking. Dead projects. You've poured 6 months into a feature. You keep shipping tweaks because we're so close. Prestige traps. You chase a brand name client or credential for status and later justify the grind as positioning. Failing strategies. Ad spend that never breaks even, but your deck keeps redefining success. What's happening? Effort justification inflates value, and post-decisional revaluation widens the gap, so quitting feels like betrayal. Here's the playbook to break the loop. Before kickoff, write kill criteria with numbers and dates. If it's a project, minimum traction by week 6, retention above X, cost per result below Y. For roles, skill delta you can prove in 90 days. For investments, base rate benchmarks, not vibes. Then run a pre-mortem. It's 4 months later and this failed. What went wrong? List the top 3 failure modes and a prefix for each. Finally, schedule exit without shame. Checkpoints where the default is to stop unless the metrics shout continue. Quick wins you can do today. Separate the investment review from the ego review. In the investment review, only numbers and milestones speak. In the ego review, you celebrate lessons, relationships, and pride. But they don't vote. Bring in a monthly outsider, someone who doesn't share your sunk narrative. Give them your criteria up front and ask one question. Would you fund this next month from scratch? You're going to need language, because identity hates exits. Use this script. Past cost is tuition, not rent. I've paid it once. I don't owe it again. Future returns decide. Say it to your team, your boss, your client, and yourself. Let's walk a mini case. A founder is running a prestige side project. A glossy report meant to impress enterprise buyers. 6 weeks in, gorgeous visuals, low download to demo conversion, ad spend creeping. Kill criteria on paper said, book 5 qualified demos from report traffic by day 45. At day 50, they had 1 demo and a lot of compliments. The ego review wanted a victory lap. The investment review said pause. They stopped the ads, archived V2, and redeployed the designer to customer stories that included direct CTAs. Result: 3 demos in 10 days from the stories. A 4th came from a rep using a story in outreach. The founder's line after, I wasn't killing work, I was killing wishful accounting. Now, salary anchoring. High pay can be an external justification that hides a shrinking learning curve. Run this test. List 3 marketable skills you'll measurably improve in the next 90 days in your current role. If you can't, you're being paid to stand still. Set a skill delta criterion. I stay if I can ship X with autonomy by date Y. If not, start a stealth search. Future you will thank you. Dead projects. Do a 2-column check today. Column 1. What would convince a stranger this project is worth another month? Column 2. What would convince them to kill it? If column 2 fills faster, your story has been driving. Run the start today for free question. Would you begin this exact project tomorrow, with no sunk cost? If not, schedule the exit checkpoint now. Prestige traps. Brands feel like assets. They're often liabilities if they don't open doors. Independent metric. Count introductions, paid work, or pipeline directly attributable to the logo. If the count is low, rotate effort to underrated channels that actually convert. You can keep the badge on your site and stop paying rent to it. Clinging to failing strategies. The post-choice patch will make you praise irrelevant metrics. Time on page is up. When revenue is flat, install a revenue-first scoreboard for campaigns. Cost per qualified lead, conversion to call, close rate, total dollars. Everything else is supporting cast. If your gut defends a tactic using only supporting stats, you've got the patch, not progress. Okay, so the tricky part is team dynamics. People don't want their work wasted. Build a reuse ritual. When you kill a project, salvage assets explicitly. Components, copy, research. Name them, store them, and log where they'll be used next. We keep the bricks, we just stop building the wrong house. That line reduces pain without inflating value. Another friction tool, reversible versus irreversible decisions. Make cheap, reversible tests the default. Instead of a full feature, ship a concierge version. Instead of a full course, release a 1-hour workshop. Reversible experiments reduce dissonance because exiting doesn't threaten identity. It looks like learning. One more field drill for this week. Pick one spend, one project, and one commitment. Write the start today for free answer, the kill criteria, and the next checkpoint. Share the document with someone who'll hold you to it. If your stomach tightens while writing, you're near the truth. If you do nothing else, move your stories out of the voting booth. Let numbers decide investments, and give your ego a separate place to be proud. Exit with receipts, reuse the bricks, and redeploy your effort to where the future pays you back. Field Lab 2, Love, Friendship, and Identity Armor. Let's take this to the messiest arena, relationships. Dissonance gets louder here because love ties your choices to your identity. If you're the loyal one, the forgiving friend, or the couple that survived everything, the thermostat will fight hard to keep that story intact. Even when the facts don't fit, start with Rule 1's shield. We've been through so much. That line turns pain into proof. You've weathered long distance, a layoff, family drama, so your brain inflates the relationship's value to match the cost. The danger is obvious. You start protecting history instead of protecting health. The question that cuts through. If you met today, knowing what you know now, would you choose this relationship? If the answer is no, your story is paying the bill. Now layer Rule 2's lens. After choosing someone, you widen the gap to reduce doubt. Your partner gets haloed, alternatives get horns. Or after a breakup, you re-rate your ex as irredeemable to make leaving feel clean. Both moves block learning. Idealization blinds you to repair work. Dehumanization prevents accurate pattern matching for the next relationship. Use a cooling audit here too. What did you write in calm moments about strengths and struggles? Compare that to your current story. Any new extremes are probably the patch. Rule 3 sneaks in through tiny favors. You say yes to things you don't endorse, cancel plans for their last-minute whims, laugh off cutting remarks, co-sign a friend's risky scheme, without a strong reason. Because the justification is thin, your beliefs shift. It's not a big deal. I'm flexible. They're just direct. Do it a few times and your standards slide. Label these in real time. I'm doing this as a one-off courtesy, not a norm, and set a time box. Courtesy doesn't require identity drift. Rule 4, dehumanization, sounds dramatic but shows up quietly as character labels. She's needy. He's a narcissist. They're toxic. Sometimes those labels fit. Often they're anesthesia. Swap labels for specifics. 3 times this month, I said no and they pushed. Specifics preserve empathy and sharpen boundaries. And check the mirror. Are you softening your reflection by hardening theirs? If a behavior would feel unfair on a recording, you're probably rationalizing harm. Rule 5 is the trap couples and friend groups stumble into performative branding. You go public with "we're unbreakable," post the highlight reel, or make an ultimatum in front of others. Now consistency pressure locks the cage. Instead of updating your stance privately, you defend the brand. Install an update policy for relationships too. We reflect in private monthly. If we change course, we say why and how. Public doesn't need to mean permanent. Let me give you a quick microcase. A couple set a pact. No public ultimatums, private check-in every 4 weeks, behavior-based standards written down. Their standards were simple. Apologies within 24 hours after harm, repair conversation within 72 hours, and visible change within 2 weeks. When one partner started missing repair windows, the old story, "We survived worse," kicked in. They used their pact instead. At the next check-in, they reviewed specifics, not history. The pattern was clear. They paused shared plans for a month and got a counselor involved. Their line to friends was a version stance. "We're in repair V2. That phrasing gave them an exit ramp without humiliation. Practical tools you can use today. Behavior-based standards. Write the non-negotiables in verbs. No name calling. No silent treatment longer than 24 hours. Finances are transparent. History doesn't override these. Private check-ins. Schedule a monthly 30-minute review with 2 columns. What's working? What needs repair? Bring 1 example for each, with timestamps. No public ultimatums pact. Agree that big decisions and critiques happen privately first. Public statements get the working hypothesis treatment. Versioned, revisable, and calm. The friend test. Would I advise a friend to stay if they were me? If your answer differs, identity armor is in play. Ask why you're the exception. Field tests that expose dissonance. Start today for free question. If you met them now, with current behavior and context, would you pick this? If not, plan a boundary or exit conversation. Cooling audit after fights. Write what happened, what you felt, and what you need. Revisit in 72 hours. If your story swings from their perfect to their evil, anchor on the written specifics. Reasons receipt for concessions. When you bend, write, "I'm doing X because Y." If Y is thin or recurring, propose a system fix instead of another concession. Scripts that help you hold the line. "I care about you and I care about us, so I'm going to talk in specifics. Here's what happened, here's the impact, and here's what I need next. I'm supporting the process, not pre-committing to the outcome. Let's test this change for 2 weeks and review. I won't do harm under ambiguity. If we're unsure, we pause and choose the least damaging step." And a quick guardrail for friends. Honesty without spectacle. Praise in public, repair in private. If you catch yourself performing loyalty online, while avoiding hard conversations offline, that's Rule 5 hijacking care. If you remember nothing else here, history is not a hall pass. Use behavior-based standards, private check-ins, experiment language for change, and the friend test to cut through identity armor. Love thrives on repair, not stories about endurance. Field Lab 3. Politics, Tribes, and Online Wars. Alright, let's take the 5 rules into the arena with the highest dissonance payload. Politics and Online Tribes. This is where Rule 2 and Rule 5 fuse. Post-choice gap widening plus public commitment. So even mild disagreements feel existential. You choose a side, you post about it, and instantly your brain gets to work making that side saintly and the other side cartoonish. The audience locks the cage, and the buyer's remorse patch widens the gap. Once you see the pattern, you'll spot it everywhere. After a vote or a viral event, your feed becomes a confirmation buffet. You share articles that bless your team. You trash anything from the other camp, and every new fact gets sorted into helps us or hurts them. That's not analysis, it's consistency maintenance in public. Add Rule 4, and the language slides toward moral exclusion. Those animals, those idiots, traitors, which makes harsh policies and pylons feel like common sense. This is textbook dissonance reduction plus moral disengagement, Bandura, amplified by public commitment dynamics. Now here's where most people mess up. They think the antidote is to be neutral. That doesn't work, and it doesn't scale. The real move is to hold reversible opinions and install friction before you go public. Reversible opinions sound like, "Here's my current view because of X and Y. If Z happens, I'll update." That sentence keeps your identity from welding itself to today's take. Let's get tactical. Before you critique the other side, run a Steelman drill. Write the strongest, fairest version of their argument, using sources they'd respect. If you can't, you're attacking a straw version that only exists to soothe your own dissonance. Then do a source switch drill. Take the claim you like and try to validate it with a source that doesn't share your tribe's branding. If it only holds with cheerleader outlets, flag it. Language is a big tell. Euphemisms sanitize harm, especially online. Collateral damage, necessary crackdown, just enforcing standards. Replace those with specifics. What exactly happens to whom, when, and with what due process? Specifics raise the discomfort your thermostat is trying to mute, and that's good. Discomfort invites better thinking. Here's a clean field test for your next thread. Swap your team's name with the other side and reread your post. If your argument suddenly sounds unfair, vague, or cruel, you are writing for applause, not accuracy. Another quick test. Can you name one real concession your side should make this week? If you can't, public commitment has fused with post-choice inflation. You're in defense mode, not problem solving. A microcase from a client who moderates a large community. A controversial policy change hit the news. Their first draft post was a dunk on the clowns in charge. We ran the update policy play, version it, timestamp it, and add an if X then update clause. Then we required a Steelman, 3 bullet points of the policy's best case rationale before any critique. The final post led with the Steelman, presented 2 specific harms with examples, and proposed a measurable alternative. The thread stayed civil, and when new data came in, they posted V2 with a small correction. The community praised the update more than the initial stance. Now about pylons. Public commitment rewards the sharpest line, not the truest one. If you want to stay human and effective, adopt a 1 degree cooler rule. Respond at a tone slightly calmer than the thread. Pair that with the recording test from earlier. Would your reply feel justified if read aloud to the person's family? If not, rewrite. Your future self will thank you. Countermeasures you can start today. Steelman before critique. Literally open your post with strongest case for the other side. It lowers defensiveness and raises the bar for your own claim. Source switch drill. Validate one favorite claim using a neutral or skeptical source. If you can't, downgrade your certainty, not your standards. Hold reversible opinions. Add a clear trigger list. I'll update if A, B, or C. That converts updates from humiliation into following your own rule. Slow your public posting. Create a 30-minute cooldown lane for hot takes. In that window, write the best argument against your view. If you can't, you're not ready. Common traps to watch: identity bundling. You take a stance on one issue, then feel compelled to accept the entire bundle of beliefs that come with your tribe's jersey. Don't. Version your beliefs by topic. Motive reading. You turn disagreements into diagnoses. You hate science. You love tyranny. Replace motives with verifiable claims and behaviors. Zero-sum framing. If every concession is losing ground, you'll never solve real problems. Practice additive moves. I agree with X, and we should add Y. Scripts you can borrow. Working hypothesis. Based on X and Y, I lean toward Z. If it happens, I'll update here. Steelman. The best argument for the other side is. Now, my concern is with these sources. I won't pile on. I'll add specifics. Here's what I know, here's what I don't, and here's my next check. One last move. Make your update visible. If you change your view, reply to your own post with a short reversal template. I said X on date because of Y. Since then, new evidence Z changed my view. I now think Q and propose R. You'll model accuracy as status, which is how we unwind Rule 5's grip without losing face. If you remember nothing else here, tribes turn dissonance into theatre. Keep your opinions reversible, your critiques Steelmaned, your sources switched, and your language specific. You'll lose a few cheap cheers and gain real influence. Detection kit, early warning signs and body cues. To beat dissonance, you have to catch it before the story hardens. The earliest clues aren't in your arguments, they're in your body and your browsing history. When the thermostat flips on, it leaves fingerprints. Let's build a detection kit you can run in under a minute. Start with somatic tells, the body signals. Notice jaw tension that wasn't there 5 minutes ago. Notice heat in your face or ears, a tight chest, or a micro headache behind the eyes. Watch for breath getting shallow and fast. Another big one, the urge to speak quickly and fill silence. Dissonance hates gaps because gaps invite evidence. If your mouth wants to sprint, that's a cue to slow everything down. Now the cognitive tells, the thought patterns. Motivated Googling is first. You're searching for proof that I'm right, instead of what would change my mind. Strawmanning shows up as picking the weakest version of the other side, so you can swat it. Moving goalposts is subtle. Well, that wasn't the metric that mattered anyway. The yes, but reflex is the all-purpose shield. Every piece of contrary info gets an instant, but attached. If you hear yourself stacking buts, you're probably not learning, you're laundering discomfort. Quick interrupters you can deploy in 10 seconds. First, name it. This is dissonance. It's a feeling, not a fact. Saying that out loud drops the temperature. Second, breathe. 4 seconds in, 6 out twice. Third, delay with a rule. I respond after 1 minute, or I revisit in 24 hours. Finally, ask, what would prove me wrong? If you can't answer, you're not in discovery, you're in defense. Here's the tool I rely on in hot moments. A 2-column sheet titled, Feels Good to Say, and Likely True. In the first column, write the line you want to deliver, exactly as your brain serves it. Snark, righteousness, all of it. In the second, rewrite the claim as a falsifiable statement tied to evidence. Example. That team always drops the ball becomes, in the last 2 sprints, they missed 2 of 5 commitments. Now you can test it. If the second column feels thin, you've got a detection hit. Let me show you a micro-story from last week. A manager DM'd me furious about a partner. They're incompetent. We ran the sheet. Column 1 filled in seconds with zingers. Column 2 had 2 verifiable misses and 1 rumor. Once he saw the gap, he wrote a comma message with a concrete ask and a metric. The partner delivered within 48 hours. The difference wasn't willpower. It was catching the thermostat early and forcing specifics. Common mistakes to avoid with this kit. Don't turn signals into self-judgment. Jaw tension isn't a moral failure. It's a flag. Don't debate while detecting. Your goal is to notice, not win. And don't let balanced research mean equal time to junk sources. Likely true still needs credible inputs. Now, practical prompts you can add to your day. Before you hit send, what would I write if I had to defend the opposite view for 2 minutes? After you buy something, which 3 criteria did I say mattered before, and what's changed? In a debate, am I answering the strongest version of their point or the easiest? 2 final cues people miss. Relief spikes after a clever justification. That pleasant wash is a tell. You just bought comfort. Also, urgency to lock a decision when nothing actually expires. If you're saying now or never, without a real constraint, the thermostat is pushing you. Run the kit fast. Body scan, thought scan, quick interrupters, 2-column sheet. Name it, breathe, delay, ask for disconfirming evidence. You're not trying to feel bad. You're buying a tiny window where accuracy can land. Once you can see dissonance as a sensation with a script, it stops steering and starts signaling. Practice protocol, the dissonance pause habit. You've got the detection kit. Now you need a reflex that kicks in before your brain writes the flattering story. That reflex is the dissonance pause. 3 seconds to notice, 30 seconds to reframe, and 1 tiny action to keep accuracy in the loop. Here's the simple habit. Step 1, the 3-second pause. When you feel the urge to explain, fast, defend, or hit send, say quietly, this is dissonance. That line separates feeling from fact. Breathe in for 4, out for 6, once. You've just bought a crack of space where the story hasn't fully hardened. Step 2, the 30-second reframe. Use this script verbatim. This is dissonance. A feeling, not a fact. What evidence hurts my stance? Then answer 3 prompts on the spot. What would prove me wrong? What's the time-stamped evidence I have? What decision can stay reversible for now? You're not building a case. You're inviting disconfirming info and choosing the cheapest next step. Step 3. Pick the smallest accuracy-preserving move. Delay by 1 cycle. I'll reply after a walk. Make it reversible. Let's test for 48 hours. Or make it specific. I'll check pre-choice criteria before defending. 1 small action is enough to break the autopilot. Okay, so the tricky part is getting this to fire in real life. You stack it onto routines that already exist. Before email replies, purchases, debates, or posting online, run the 3-second pause. Add it to calendar events. Title your next meeting, pause reframe act. Put the script at the top of your notes. Your goal isn't perfection, it's reps. Let me show you exactly how to use it with common triggers. Email. You get a sharp message, your chest tightens, your fingers race. Pause. Label it. 1 breath. Then write 2 drafts in a 2-column format. First, what feels good to say. Second, what's likely true and useful. Send the second. Purchases. You're about to buy the shiny thing. Pause. Ask, which 3 criteria did I set pre-choice? If you can't name them, you don't buy, yet. Debates, you want to dunk. Pause. Steelman first in 2 sentences. If you can't, you're not ready. Posting online. Cool down lane on, revision ritual engaged, working hypothesis language only. Measurement turns this from a nice idea into a real habit. Keep a weekly tally of court rationalizations. Each time you run a pause, log a tick and a 6-word note. Pause before send, asked for data. Celebrate revisions. The moments you updated a stance publicly or changed course based on evidence. That reward shifts status from certainty to accuracy in your own head. Common mistakes to avoid. Don't turn the pause into procrastination. The rule is brief: 3 seconds, then 30 seconds, then one small action. Don't use it to endlessly self-doubt. The goal is to keep decisions reversible where possible and specific where not. And don't over-explain to others. You can share the output, updated stance, test plan, without narrating your inner process. Scripts you can use word for word. Pausing 3 seconds. I'll give you a clear answer after I check our criteria. Working hypothesis. I lean X because A and B. I'll update if C shows up. I'm labeling this an experiment for 1 week. Success is M, failure is N, we'll decide after. A fast practice circuit for today. Pick 1 email, 1 purchase, 1 debate thread. Run the 3-second pause on each. For the email, send the likely true version. For the purchase, write pre-choice criteria before you pay. For the debate, post only after a Steelman and a reversible phrasing. End your day with 2 lines and a note. Caught dissonance at time, action taken. What you did. You'll see patterns fast. 1 micro-story to anchor it. A founder felt pressed to promise a launch date on a call. He paused, labeled the feeling, breathed once, and said, "Working hypothesis is mid-month based on A and B. I'll confirm tomorrow after we check integration performance. If throughput dips below X, we'll slide by 48 hours. The client nodded. 24 hours later, the integration flagged. He updated with the template. Relationship strengthened. Accuracy 1. Run the pause. Label the feeling. Ask for the evidence that hurts. Make the next step small, specific, and, when possible, reversible. Then count it. Reps make the habit. The habit keeps the thermostat from running your life. Edge cases. When telling the truth costs you. Sometimes accuracy collides with reputation, money, or safety. This is where the pause meets reality. You want to update publicly, but the social math looks ugly. You don't need heroics. You need tactics that protect relationships while protecting truth. Start with public commitment versus correction. You've made a bold claim, new evidence arrives, and a quiet part of you whispers, maybe wait. Don't. Use the reversal template you drafted earlier. I said X on date because of Y. Since then, Z changed. I now think Q and will do R. Add 1 more sentence that preserves face. This follows our update policy. You're not flip-flopping, you're honoring a rule. If you don't have an update policy pinned where the claim lives, write one now and retrolink it. This turns backtracking into process, not personality. Now, dehumanization detox in high-conflict settings. You're in a leadership seat, a public forum, or a family dispute, and strong moves are required. The no harm under ambiguity line becomes a boundary with teeth. Safety first. If speaking accurately escalates risk to you or others, route through protected channels. HR, counsel, an ombudsperson, or an anonymous reporting line, before you confront publicly. Meanwhile, switch to specifics-only communication. On date, behavior, happened, impact was X. Request. Y by deadline. You defend standards without branding people. If someone tries to bait you into labels, refuse the frame. I'm not talking identities. I'm talking verifiable behaviors and outcomes. Insufficient justification, at work, is another trap. Do it for the team, can slowly pull you off your values. Before you say yes, write a reasons receipt. I'm doing X because Y outcome matters by Z date. If Y is fuzzy, ask for clarity or shrink the request. I'll pilot for 1 week with metric M. If leadership pushes back with be a team player, use a consistency bridge. I'm protecting the team by protecting standards. Approving without a clear outcome usually creates rework. Let's agree on the smallest test that buys real learning. You're aligning with the team's long-term interests, not the moment's comfort. Let me give you scripts that keep truth high and heat low. I've updated based on new info. I was wrong on X. I'm keeping Y. Next step is Z. This follows our revision policy. I won't speak in labels. Here are the specifics, evidence, and the repair I'm asking for. I'm a yes to the outcome, not this method. I'll run a timebox test and report back Friday. I'm choosing the least harmful next step under uncertainty. If new facts emerge, I'll adjust. What about when the truth hurts a relationship you want to preserve? Use the three-part kindness sandwich: respect, reality, repair. First, respect. I care about you and our work. Second, reality. Here's the concrete gap with timestamps. Third, repair. Here's a path that protects both of us. Keep identities out of it. Offer a reversible plan and a review date. If they escalate, you escalate your documentation, not your tone. And sometimes telling the truth costs status. You'll lose cool points with the certainty crowd. Accept the trade. Pre-commit a small, visible ritual that pays you back. Public update logs, weekly wrongness wins, or a team shout-out for best mind change. You shift status from bravado to accuracy. Over time, the room recalibrates. One more edge. When truth threatens confidentiality, you can still update without leaking. Say, I've updated based on information I can't share. Here's what I'm changing and how I'll measure it. Then over-deliver on the measurable part. People don't need the gossip, they need the plan. Finally, protect your nervous system. Accuracy under pressure drains energy. Install a recovery loop, 2 deep breaths post-update, a quick walk, a note in your tally. Updated on X, result Y. Celebrate the act, not the applause. You're training yourself to value reality over reputation. Bottom line, when truth is costly, reduce humiliation, reduce harm, and reduce irreversibility. Use process as armor. Update policies, specifics, experiments, and review dates. Say less about who's right, more about what happens next. The playbook. 1-page map of the 5 rules. Let's compress everything into a 1-page map you can keep in your notes. 5 rules, 5 tripwires, 5 corrections. Run this before big calls and after hot moments. Rule 1. Past pain inflates value. Translation. The more you've paid in time, money, or status, the more your mind wants the thing to be worth it. Tripwires. We've come too far. So much invested. One more push. Corrections. Decide on future-only returns. Write kill criteria before you start. Metrics, dates, and minimum thresholds. When you hit a checkpoint, ask, if I started today for free, would I still do this? If the answer's no, apply the tuition line. Past cost is tuition, future returns decide. Rule 2. Choices widen bias. After you commit, the buyer's remorse patch starts spreading, options apart. Your pick gets shinier, the other side gets worse. Tripwires. Sudden certainty after a hard choice, new flaws that weren't in your notes, motivated Googling post-purchase. Corrections. Schedule a cool-down audit at 72 hours. Compare your pre-choice prediction list to your current story. Only update based on timestamped evidence. Install, reopen if X/Y/Z. Triggers in advance, so revisiting becomes following the plan, not breaking it. Rule 3. Small reasons shift beliefs. Tiny external rewards create pressure to justify your behavior internally. Tripwires. Courtesy yes, soft praise you don't believe. Just helping out without a clear why. Corrections. Label experiments explicitly. Testing, not endorsing. And timebox them. Use reasons receipts. I'm doing X because Y. If Y is thin, shrink X. Protect identity with role labels. I'm here as a tester. I'm wearing my skeptic hat. Demand explicit. Outcomes before you commit. Rule 4. Harm needs dehumanization. Before we hurt or exclude, we soften the mirror by downgrading people into labels. Tripwires. Group nicknames, euphemisms, jokes that numb. They always stories. Corrections. Rehumanize with a specific detail. Flip roles and ask if your rationale feels fair from their seat. Redline behaviors in verbs. No public shaming. No withholding info. Apply the recording test. Would this feel justified if played to someone I respect? Under ambiguity. Choose the least harmful next step. Rule 5. Public stances harden. Once you speak in public, consistency pressure locks the cage. Tripwires. Drafting live, hot takes, edicts without exit ramps, fear of visible updates. Corrections. Use working hypothesis language, version your statements, and pin a public update policy. Leave explicit exit ramps. We proceed unless X, Y, Z. Add a revision ritual. Every stance gets a review date and triggers. Praise mind changes, so accuracy earns status. Now stitch the rules into workflows. Decisions. Write pre-choice criteria. Add reopen if, triggers, and schedule the 72-hour audit. Projects. Set kill criteria, run a pre-mortem, and separate the investment review from the ego review. Meetings. Label roles up front, tester, skeptic, decider, and use specifics-only sprints when heat rises. Communication. Draft privately, cool down timer on, Steelman first, then publish with versioning and update triggers. Daily drills that keep the map alive, 2-column check. Feels good to say versus likely true. Use it for hot replies and status updates. Reasons receipt. 1 line for every reluctant yes. Thin reason? Shrink the action. Start today for free. Run it on 1 project each Friday. If not, schedule an exit checkpoint. Cooling audit. After any meaningful purchase or choice, compare pre- and post stories. Timestamp evidence. Mirror clause review. Before hard calls, restate the human fact and the redline behaviors. Team norms that compound. We keep the bricks. Archive assets at project end so exiting doesn't feel like waste. No harm under ambiguity. Smaller tests, private repair first. Updates are wins. Celebrate the best public revision weekly. Exit ramps everywhere. Policies, plans, and posts include triggers and versioning. 1 last integration move. Pair the Dissonance Pause with the playbook. Pause 3 seconds. Run a fast mental scan of the 5 rules. Pick the correction that fits, and act on the smallest reversible step. You won't catch everything. You don't need to. You just need enough reps to make accuracy the default. Unplug the engine with 1 move. Here's the takeaway. You can't outmuscle dissonance, but you can outmaneuver it by naming it and using the 5 rules as tripwires with quick, specific corrections. Try the Dissonance Pause 3 times today, then run 1 cooling audit this week. Subscribe for weekly accuracy drills, and watch the follow-up on identity traps and public commitments. Pin your update policy publicly, so your future self has an exit ramp.